Hello, and welcome to English Easily. My name is Professor Winnie. It's a beautiful evening here in Second Life. The sun is setting and the crickets are singing. This is a story for high, intermediate, and advanced English as a second language learners. The exercise is meant to encourage global listening. When you listen globally, you are not focusing on every word. Instead, you should sit back, relax, and try to understand the gist of the story. The idea is to lower your stress level and learn to tolerate difficult content. When listening globally, you should only use the dictionary for key words that are critical to understanding. This is a story that many foreigners coming to the USA might be familiar with. New arrivals often experience confusion, anxiety, and isolation when trying to deal with American governmental bureaucracy. And in the case of our main character in this story, the listeners will also experience the humorous absurdity of a naive but honest newcomer attempting to comprehend that bureaucracy. Our story will introduce Arturo, a recent immigrant from Mexico. Although this is fiction, there are some who may have faced similar obstacles when arriving in the fast-moving setting of our story, America in the late 20th century. Don't be confused by the odd title of our story, Arturo and the Office of HYPEREXTENDED BLANDFUNCTION. It will be explained later. The reader for our story, Professor Tremont, is also its author.
Things just couldn't get better. The can of beef stew was hot and the beer was cold. Bills had been paid and tomorrow was a day off. Saturday nights are for parties, and the party for one was about to begin. And, as if all that wasn't enough, Arturo Ramos, a very fortunate man, was soon to be reunited with his family. Arturo Ramos didn't possess an earthly fortune, but he was a fortunate man. The humble party he was throwing for himself was to celebrate his first day off in the last 12, and, following the meal, he would smoke a big cigar and watch a wrestling match on his 12-inch black and white TV. He had wanted to top off the evening with a bottle of champagne, but his budget wouldn't allow it. He had never tasted champagne, and he promised himself that one day he would. Arturo's real pleasure, though, was a simple one. He would stare at the photo of his wife and kids and dream the dream that was getting closer to reality. Soon they would be coming to live with him in the United States. With this in mind, and with the luxury of knowing he could sleep late the next morning, Arturo Ramos slept and dreamed on a chilly San Francisco night. Arturo had been in the United States for almost 3 years. His jobs had been menial and tedious, but he had worked hard and saved every spare penny. At the moment, his day job was scraping paint off an old renovated building. At night, he cleaned bathrooms in a downtown office building. His acquaintances teased him, saying that he worked too much, but Arturo didn't care. One glance at his family photo made it all worthwhile. His home, since his arrival in the United States, had been a tiny room in a residential hotel on Guerrero Street. He cooked his meals on a hot plate. Second-hand clothes were purchased at thrift shops. The used television was his only luxury, and he had been accustomed to the horizontal roll of the picture every 20 minutes or so. Before he came to the United States, he promised himself he would avoid the temptation of befriending Spanish speakers and concentrate on speaking only English. On his very first day in the United States, Arturo had received some additional advice from a Filipino immigrant who had been in the U.S. for a few years. The advice? Work hard, stay away from welfare and drugs, and above all, and this is critical, my friend, avoid trouble with the authorities. And then, suddenly, the orderly, optimistic world of Arturo Ramos was shaken up a bit the day that the letter arrived.